Sorry guys, I'm sick. I just wanted to share this study that I've been doing. Something I came across in this book that I gave away to some individuals at the beginning of New Year's. Breaking Intimidation, How to Overcome Fear and Release the Gifts of God in Your Life. It's by John Bevere, author of The Bait of Satan. Now there's another book out there that is also called Breaking Intimidation by John Bevere. I don't know if it is the same book as this. The cover is different. I've never bought the other book. I've always stuck with this one because it was so powerful. And I wanted to read a part on page 62, The Symptoms of Intimidation. So for me, when I woke up to the reality of the corruption and all of that in our government system, I was going through administrative law classes. I was taking a course in public administration, and that's when I came to learn about the structure of the government and all of those administrative agencies, and that their creation, they were not created by the U.S. Constitution, but by acts of Congress. And upon further study, I began to realize that there is no authority that was granted to Congress to expand the executive branch of government. Okay, so all of these federal agencies that are a part of the executive branch of government are not constitutional. They're actually called extra constitutional, which is a fancy way of saying it's beyond the Constitution. I wanted to read, so when I started to realize how big the problem was, it was very intimidating, and some of the symptoms that I suffered was discouragement. I began to think the problem was so big there was nothing I could do about it. Confusion as to what I could do, if anything at all. What was the point of even trying, because the problem was so big. And then frustration, that coming to believe, I was beginning to actually believe that thought, that there was nothing I could do, that what I could do was so little that it wouldn't matter anyways. And I have found out that those are symptoms of intimidation, and those feelings are not true. Those are what are used to prevent people from doing anything at all, which makes it so easy for Satan. So here's the part of the book I wanted to share with you. It says, intimidating spirit unleashes confusion, discouragement, and frustration. Now I want to bring this to your attention too. It says an intimidating spirit. So intimidation is a spirit, guys. Many people know this spirit as Jezebel, the spirit of Jezebel, okay? But in this book, it just says an intimidating spirit unleashes confusion, discouragement, and frustration. Its goal is to cause you to lose your proper perspective. Everything will seem overwhelming, difficult, or even impossible. The stronger the intimidation, the greater the discouragement and hopelessness. If intimidation is not dealt with immediately, it will cause you to do things you never would do if you were not under its influence. This is exactly the goal of intimidation. And now the next paragraph tells me what I need to do, okay? Examining instances where I've been attacked by an intimidating spirit. Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to go back, and this is called cleaning house, and cleaning our house within us. Examining instances where we have felt we were attacked by an intimidating spirit. The author says, I can relate to what Elijah must have felt. Before I understood how intimidation worked, I would sit in my hotel room fighting discouragement and hopelessness. I would wonder, what good is all this doing? Who do you think you are? I would sometimes even have these thoughts in the morning after a great service. I recall one particular time when I could do absolutely nothing all day. I couldn't shake the heaviness. And the Bible calls that heaviness foreboding, guys. He says, I would pray and it seemed God was nowhere. Just as with Elijah, my focus had shifted to me, 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 me. And if that's what you focus on, that is a clear indication of fear, because that's what fear does, is it gets you to focus on yourself and take your eyes off of God. The author says, I felt ineffective. I considered my ministry to be worthless. That is why Elijah said, it is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers. 1 Kings 9:14. At the end of this particular discouraging day, God showed me how Elijah was intimidated by Jezebel. That's that spirit of intimidation, Jezebel. That's how it got its name. He says, I finally recognized that my behavior was exactly what this intimidating, discouraging spirit wanted. It wanted me to back off from what God sent me to do. There were people in that church who did not like the message of repentance and holiness God had me bring. I immediately went after the root of the symptoms. I had struggled with it all day, a spirit of intimidation. I boldly broke free and felt released from confusion and frustration. We had a powerful meeting that night. I will explain later how to confront this spirit, but now let's look at it, at the life of Elijah, to see how to recognize it. And I can tell you, there's been moments in my life, I've read the story of Elijah, and taking stock, taking my own personal inventory, going back and examining instances where I have been attacked by the spirit of intimidation. It was actually pretty revealing to me, because there was a particular situation that I was in concerning this older lady. She was in her late 60s or whatever. She was very indifferent to the opinions and the feelings of other people. And she wasn't intimidating at all. It was the situation that had been created by her that I was intimidated by. And what intimidated me is because there were certain policies in place within this organization that had never been used, and for the first time they would need to be used in order to remove this lady so that she couldn't do any further damage. And I was asked to be the one in charge of following through with those policies. So I'm the first one to do it. And it was against an individual that had been with the organization for over 25 years. So the situation was intimidating simply because I didn't know what to expect. I had never done it before, and I didn't know what to expect, the reaction or responses from the group. So intimidation comes, we may not label it this way, and it may seem preposterous because we're used to focusing on people, but for me, it wasn't people. I'm not afraid of people. Or like it says in the Bible, not to fear men. That'll hold you back. But that's not what bothered me. What bothered me, what felt threatening to me, was the situation or circumstance. And so there's many of them that I was able to list and to deal with this spirit of intimidation. You have to remember, our battle is not of flesh and blood. So even with the situation with the Bundy family, okay, it was not a battle of flesh and blood. There were principles they were standing on. It was a spiritual battle, and the battle had already been won, even though we didn't see the outcome until after each outcome happened. God already knew how it was going to end. The Bundys didn't know. No one out there knew. Only God knew. And it takes faith to follow through and believe that, God has our back. Okay? And so we can see the fruits of it now. Only those that, that were dishonest out there actually got some type of sentence, or those that were intimidated into taking a plea or worn out to take a plea, are those that were actually, will suffer any long-term consequences from the event. The others that stood strong and stood in their faith and belief in God, they've all been found innocent, or the charges were dismissed against them because the entire story the government made up was fabricated to begin with. And but the spirit of intimidation, of confusion, discouragement, all of these things, when you get discouraged and you bow down to that discouragement, the devil's won. And many individuals that took plea deals did so out of pure discouragement. They really believed what they were being told, that they were going to be thrown away for the rest of their lives, or that things were going to turn out bad or whatever. And so this discourages individuals, and it's all this is the spirit of intimidation, or what people refer to as the spirit of Jezebel. And we need to recognize where this spirit is at work in our life, because it is those areas that is being threatened by this spirit where we're being held back. We're ineffective. So for me, because I've known about this book for so long, and I understand that even if I'm afraid, I'm just going to press forward anyways and do it. And sometimes it requires to press through the fear, go through it anyways. Do the very thing you're afraid of doing, just to see if that fear is true. Guys, it's always turned out to be a lie. Every little step I've taken, every direction that God has shown me that I have followed has always turned out fruitful, and I've been blessed because of it. So I wanted to share this with you today. This is what my meditation is going to be on. I'm doing a new study on it, learning new things, remembering the things that I have learned because of this book, and the steps I've taken to do what this book has told me. And if you were the one that got a copy of this book, please share your experiences with me on what you've read so far. And if you didn't get a copy of this book, but you're going to, download a copy on the internet or something, please share your experiences with us. I'm going to be talking about this on and off over the next few months, because I'm not going to read straight through the book. I'm actually studying it, taking, a section at a time. Hope you guys are doing okay. I'll talk to you later.